Hi guys, it's Jose Latour. Monica has asked me to explain very quickly how to take an E-2 treaty investor visa and turn it into an EB-5. In the old days, I used to call these accidental EB-5s because it was people that had made a treaty investment in the United States in a business that had ultimately grown to the point where they had spent enough money and created enough new American jobs to actually count as an EB-5. Now I'm going to tell you very quickly how to do that. So let's assume that you're a Vietnamese investor, and let's assume that you decide to pursue the Grenada CBI program and get your passport in Grenada. We've determined that this is the best program for a number of reasons, not the least of which is when you get the Grenada passport, you're able to apply for an E-2 treaty trader visa because there's a treaty of trade and commerce between Grenada and the U.S. So you do that, you plan your E-2 business enterprise. Now remember, for an E-2, you need to just create a couple of jobs, 2 or 3 new American jobs are enough to start, and you need to spend, let's say, $150,000 or thereabouts, and you need to show that you're building a business. There's no numerical minimum investment, and there's no numerical minimum number of American employees, but you got to create something. The thing is, if you do it in advance and you pick an investment that can grow to meet, under today's standards, which could change either the $500,000 TEA threshold or the $1 million non-TEA threshold, and the business will create 10 full-time jobs, then you can sort of segue that through and make the E-2 what ultimately becomes your permanent residency. So, for example, let's say that you decided to do this today and you're going to open ABC fast food restaurant with this objective of the EB-5. You do the E-2, you do the lease, you start the company up. When you started spending money, getting it going, you go get the E-2 visa. Because you're a Grenadian citizen at this point, you'll get a 5-year approval. Now, fast forward 6 months, a year down the road, and all of a sudden, that business is doing okay. You might have 4 or 5 employees, and you've invested at that point, let's say, $200,000, $250,000, $300,000. When you're doing an individual EB-5 as opposed to a regional center EB-5, the key thing to remember is you have to be actively in the process of investing by the time that you file a 526. That means you don't have to have invested the whole $500,000. You just need to have put enough in there now to show them that it's a real deal and it's a real business. So what happens is at that point, once the business is strong enough, and it could be in 6 months to a year after the E-2, you would file the I-526 even though you didn't have the 10 jobs yet, and even though you hadn't spent the whole $1 million or $500,000. Why? Because you have to prove that you created those jobs 2 years after the approval of the I-526. So effectively, you'd be here in an E-2 status for the 5 years, and your EB-5 would be cooking, so to say, during the time that your family's in the U.S. Now, important thing to remember is with the backlog for Vietnamese investors, this effectively allows you to start the business that will be the path to your green card today, even though initially it would only be the E-2. Okay? I know this is complicated, but I'm cramming this and making it short. One final note to leave you with. If you are thinking about ever taking your E-2 treaty investor visa and converting it to EB-5, then you need to talk to Monica, and you got to make absolutely sure that the source of funds is documented for every penny you spend beginning with the E-2. You don't have to document it for the E-2, but later on, when we go and it's time to file your 526 and convert the E-2, which is keeping you in the in the U.S. to the permanent version on the EB-5, we're going to have to justify retroactively all the money you've invested. So you want to make sure that we do source of funds from day one. E-2 to EB-5, easy to say, no secrets, but we're the only people that know what we're talking about and that can do this for Vietnamese investors. Have a good day.